What's up, guys? This is Preston from Exotic Car Blacklist, and the EV market is not doing well. I think this is a situation of some entity being overly optimistic on a way to change the environment and didn't think this all the way through. The EV market is an absolute smart ideal. Like, I get the ideal behind it. But what was not thought through was the infrastructure, the range anxiety, the cost of things going wrong. Hybrids should have been the answer in the beginning before we went to EVs. They went straight EV, and that was where it failed. That's where it all started to go bad. So you have people like Ford losing hundreds of millions of dollars slash losing tens of thousands of dollars per vehicle being made. You got Tesla that's down just recently on their earnings 50% year over year on revenue. You don't have anyone in the EV space that's doing good whatsoever right now. Like, there's not one automaker. You have Fisker that's teetering that line of, are we going to have a reorg or are we going to be able to make it? Now, Fisker's situation is a lot different this time compared to last time because the batteries were the issue last time. When you have big automakers like that having issues with EVs, it's not one brand. It is the overall picture of what's going on in the industry. Again, we should have started with hybrids. I think the biggest thing right now with EV adoption is going to be your range anxiety and the battery technology. The battery technology is getting better as far as being able to give you more range and as far as being able to be recycled. But that range anxiety is still a killer right now. In the beginning, before I started driving EVs, I was one of those people that had range anxiety. I didn't know what to expect. There wasn't like a demo car that you could just go get in and drive. There wasn't a situation to where I could take a car home for a weekend before recently. And I've been driving petrol, diesel vehicles all my life. So switching to an EV or battery powered vehicle was absolutely mind blowing. I just didn't know how to approach that. And I'm fairly sure, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is where majority of the people are at right now. And then let's set aside the car guys. If you don't have any noise with your vehicle, that's already a turnoff. So us car guys love to be able to hear the car make noise, like to feel the rumble, because then that's the immersion of driving a vehicle. That all goes away with EV. Now, Toyota just recently tried to put the transmission in one of their vehicles, and what I read online was that when the transmission went down, it cost just as much to fix the transmission as it did to buy the car. That's not solving anything at that point. That's just going back to square one. Like, this has to make sense, and right now it does not make sense. EVs do not make sense. I think once we have that adoption of the EV range, the battery technology, and then a couple other things, like, let's talk about infrastructure, right? Like, we have to have the infrastructure to be able to do this, and without that recipe of things, there won't be an EV adoption. It'll be forced on us like it is now. EPA regulation is where all this came from. You got Dodge losing Hellcats. You got Ford. They're still making V8s, but here's a caveat to this. Like, this is why you see some companies making V8 still and some not. Some companies in the beginning of this mandate went full pedal to the floor creating EVs. The new mandate that at least 56% of your vehicles have to be electric vehicles, and it's some number like 13% that have to be hybrid. So Ford jumped on the wagon early and started creating EVs, which that's why you see they're taking losses now. But they started creating EVs to be able to keep making V8s. Unfortunately, that's not happened. That's not what happened with the Hellcats and the 392 motors. That's just not what happened at all. There was still wide open throttle making those and weren't meeting quotas. They were on the way there, but they weren't meeting quotas, unfortunately. Just using those as examples. Now, Fisker, on the other hand, I like to use Fisker because Fisker is an interesting beast. Fisker came to the market this time with a great product, the Fisker Ocean. They had the Pear, and then there was another one as well. But the Ocean is the only one that made it to the market. The Ocean was a amazing vehicle. It is an amazing vehicle, but the execution, the time of execution was horrible. They came out at a time when we were coming down off of COVID prices, and vehicle sales were dwindling down. Interest rates are going up because of inflation. So Fisker would not be in the situation that it is in right now. Let's make this clear. If that wasn't part of the mix, if we still had 3% rates, 2% interest rates on vehicles, and we were still running through these COVID prices because production constrained, because people weren't able to get the parts that they need, the chips. There was a chip shortage, and all that made prices shoot up like skyrocket. If Fisker would have came out then, Fisker would not be in the situation it is now, or at least it would be in a better situation. Let's look at Tesla, right? Tesla is the golden child of the EV brand. Now Tesla is interesting because it's not considered a automaker. It's not considered a car company. Tesla is considered a technology company. Tesla is also not US based. Tesla is considered China based, which is interesting as well. Now, if Tesla is having issues right now, and let's just use that as a staple of all EVs because they came to market first and became who they are today, became the people's brand because of the vehicles that they offer and the incentives. The incentives are another reason that people buy EVs. So when you start raising interest rates and raising car prices because EVs aren't cheap, then people can't afford EVs even with that $7,500 credit that they was giving you for the EVs. I don't know where the disconnect was for the government when all of this happened. They're just not selling because of everything that's going on. Now, there are some great things to having EVs like autonomous driving. Now, that's good and bad at the same time. But EVs will be so much more if they would have just came out different. I can't say it enough. The autonomous driving is the big selling point for EVs. Being able to let go of that steering wheel and the car drive itself is something that came to market with Tesla kind of pioneering that. And it became like the standard for what people wanted on EVs. Now, granted, having that on a hybrid is like the best of both worlds because now there are 700 MPG vehicles out there, so mile per gallon estimate, because they call it an estimate because you really don't know how many miles you're getting with the EV because you're on a battery. So with gas, with diesel, you can estimate a lot better than you can with EVs, which is another issue. You have electric vehicles coming to the market and they're telling you a certain range, but that range doesn't take in towing. That range doesn't take in the cold elements. So then you get a 360-mile range on a vehicle and it may only make it 330. So that has to be addressed as well. Now you have vehicles with solar panels on the roof, and I'm gonna go back to Tesla again. You got, Toyota also did the same thing. You have solar panels on the roof. That is a great idea. That's a great invention. We already know about regenerative braking. We understand that completely. EVs just have to do more. Work on the environmental impact because you use gas to create EV batteries slash use it to give it the energy that it needs to move. You see what I'm going with this? Like, it doesn't make sense. You use gas, which you're trying to stop using, to then power EVs. And the argument there is that it takes less gas to create the EVs, and then the overall long-term use of the EV saves the environment. I get the argument. I understand that, but the principle behind it don't make sense. And then on top of that, you have people that still carry generators around in their car to charge their EVs in case the EV stations aren't working. The EV stations aren't working is a real thing. We are in a very interesting time when they're trying to push EVs when it should have been hybrids. If an EV station, recharge station is not working, then you should be able to know that there's gas right there. You should be able to put that gas in your vehicle and be able to continue driving. Hybrids are such a smart move. EVs should be an option to hybrids because there are hybrids that produce almost zero emission. That is literally what you want from EVs. That is literally what you want to save the environment. EVs are polluting in their own way, right? Because the tire wear, the tire pollution is what the argument is. Now, granted, I don't know enough on that subject to be 100% spot on and to give you the real numbers from that tire pollution, but I can only imagine that the tire pollution from an EV can't be as bad as an 18-wheeler or a F350 or a 3500 dually. You know, you get what I'm saying. Like, the weight of the vehicle is where the tire pollution comes from. There are advantages to having an EV, such as vehicle to grid technology. So why not have the EV be able to power the grid from the excess power that is taken in to charge the vehicle? So when you plug it up and you hit 100%, why not have that vehicle be able to put that power somehow back into the grid to be able to lower the energy cost for your home, for your neighborhood, whatever that may be? These are ambitions at the greatest for EV, but they're still ambitions that we should strive for. EVs are they the EV has it just came out at the wrong time, and that's just the best way to put it. Are they going to be amazing for the future? Absolutely. Are hybrids the answer right now? In my opinion, yes. That is how you introduce people to a new concept. You don't put people in karate class and day one make them a black belt and they fight black belts. They work their way up to the belts. So it's the same for vehicles. And if you want me to use another example, you don't put a baby on his feet at 1 month old and say run and the baby can't crawl. That's literally what they did for EVs. I don't understand the mindset behind it. At the end of the day, I'm not in the room making that decision. But all I can say is EVs would have came out the block so much better from that 100-meter sprint if it would have been introduced as a hybrid and then EV options later. So this is my opinion. This is how I feel about EVs. This is why EVs aren't as popular as they should be. I think that this is something over time that we will all see the benefit of, but it's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow, and it's not going to be in the next 2 years. So it's going to take time for everything to kind of work itself out, the benefit to be there. New technology takes time to work kinks out and to also be able to evolve. And right now we need to evolve. So as far as EVs, I don't know, man. I feel like EVs are just, they came out at the wrong time. They're great vehicles, but they just came at the wrong time. This is my opinion. This is Preston from Exotic Car Blacklist. And if you want to add anything, please add anything. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm completely open to this debate. Let's continue this debate. I'm very curious on it. We can have many, many topics on this. But your boy is out until the next video. I'll see you guys later. Peace.